We are currently on Tower Hill. If you don't know where that is, Dan, please turn this way for me, where you will see the Tower of London. In the centre, you'll see the White Tower sticking up, which was built by Bishop Gundulf for William the Conqueror, not long after the Norman invasion of 1066. And one of the main reasons we have to point that out is because there's so little in this vicinity to indicate we are even in London, because it looks like a stagnant cement metropolis. But this little relic is sitting here. This unsuspecting building is actually the second ever tunnel to be built under the Thames. Now, unfortunately, you can't get in there. It was finished in the late end of the 1860s and just sits here unassumingly without anyone really being able to tell what it is. There's no plaque on it to tell you that it was such an important tunnel. And each tunnel in the early stages of tunnelling were incredibly important, because every time you completed a tunnel, the closer you came to understanding the better methods of doing so. If you want to go through Rotherhithe Tunnel, you can just get on train between Wapping and Rotherhithe. But to get into this, you have to work for someone special. And millions of people pass this all the time with absolutely no idea how iconic or important this little building is. And to this day, workers still use it to go back and forth between the north and south banks of the river. But neither of these buildings are why we're here. Come with me, please. You see, somewhere between Ben & Jerry's and Wagamama's was a pub called the Tiger Tavern, which was a beautiful pub. Once again, there might be some embellishment, because it's alleged there was a tunnel which went from the pub to the tower, which isn't unbelievable, but something I find hard to believe is there was supposed to have been a mummified cat in there, which was petted by Elizabeth I whilst she was prisoner in the tower during the reign of her sister, Bloody Mary. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it's certainly interesting nonetheless. So some may be wondering why we're filming this location where there's not actually a pub to look at, and why we're just filming a bunch of boring buildings. But that's the point I'm trying to make. It's an example to highlight many other properties that are long lost. Can we live in the hope that you might stumble across an article one day online that talks about the existence of the Tiger Tavern? I can't really rely on that. So even if this video or videos like it are barely seen, at least it's some sort of record. But more importantly, it puts the seed in your mind that wherever you're standing, there may be something more important than what's in front of you, especially when the buildings like this could just be anywhere in the world, whilst the pub that was here looked English, it looked British. So whether you're in Derbyshire or you're in Scotland, you don't know what you're looking at and what's been there. So this isn't just a video about the Tiger Tavern, it's about the disappearance of public houses in general. And for me, I wish people would start to look more in depth at the things that deeply affected the human beings on the ground than just kings, queens and things like that. And people that have been logged, because as I've said many times, public houses were far more than just businesses. They were places that you met your wife or husband, places that you buried your dead. Well, you had your funeral processions at least. These are very important places for business, law and order. They weren't just places to go and buy a coffee. If you was to be the ancestors of Britain or even Europe, and you could see now where all of the plots were that you'd met your wife or you'd taken your children into these taverns and inns, I think you'd probably be more heartbroken than impressed. People today pretend, in my opinion, to be impressed with modern architecture, but then go out of their way to photograph and gawp at anything historic, which is why we preserve it. Whereas something like this you can just knock down and rebuild, whilst the pub that was there, the memories, the actual essence of what it was, you can't replace that. It's a bit like a taste or a smell. It requires specific elements to create something to be perfect. So you can't just whack up a bar and call it a pub, because it's not. So in a building like this, they might stick a bar and call it a pub, but to us it's not. It's a kick in the teeth. And as I've said elsewhere, pubs that once lived in packs have become lone wolves that are probably not going to survive a very harsh upcoming winter. And so it's up to us to, if not save them, remember them. And the next time that you do look at a building like this, give a thought to what might be underneath it or what was there before, because I can guarantee you it was a damn sight more meaningful and impressive than what it is today. Think for yourself. We'll see you soon. Take care.